Eating on the street while walking is considered bad manners in Japan. It's seen as poor public etiquette. But no one is going to say anything to you. I'm not doing this as an act of rebellion. Oh no, the wild one. No, no, no. There are certain rules in Japan that you have to keep in mind. It's not polite, but it's not a crime. It's not the end of the world, and you won't bother anyone. And let's explain a little why. Very tasty. I'm Naka, this is Japatonic Light, and today we're going to talk about things you shouldn't do in Japan. Don't overuse perfume. Even though perfume is sold everywhere, Japanese people don't use perfume. Normally, they're used for very special occasions when someone might want to go out at night with the intention of seducing someone. But even so, people use very little perfume, especially for dates where you're going to eat. Because sometimes perfume can overwhelm someone else's nose, sense of smell, even their palate if you use too much perfume. Japanese people usually, at most, use fabric perfume, but it's the same one you use when you wash clothes. The liquid soap and the fabric perfume. Nothing more than that, because those are more subtle scents, but wearing perfume isn't very common. Things you shouldn't do at a Japanese table. First of all, something that can happen very often with some tourists is that they arrive in Japan and start playing with the chopsticks. Don't do that, because it's very bad manners. On the other hand, a lot of people might say, well, I'm going to the bathroom, and stick the chopsticks into the rice. You should never do this, because it can actually be very offensive. Any Japanese person near you will tell you, don't do that, don't do that. You don't stick chopsticks into the rice. Because during funeral ceremonies, where a kind of altar is set up to watch over a person, there are photos, flowers, and there's a plate, a bowl of rice with the chopsticks stuck in vertically. This is meant to represent a vessel with ashes, and the chopsticks are like incense sticks. Therefore, it's very bad manners. Among all the customs in restaurants or during meals, sticking chopsticks into the rice is the worst of all. It's the one you should never do. Physical contact and eye contact. Japanese people usually greet each other with a certain distance. At most, they might do a fist bump. But they never go around. Well, shaking hands is reserved for very formal situations. Shaking hands like this with both hands and all that. But no, let's say with someone you barely know, shaking hands like that, waving, touching. That honestly makes Japanese people very uncomfortable. Similarly, Japanese people aren't really into making a lot of eye contact with each other. In fact, my girlfriend, for example, really likes to look people in the eyes. And they've told her not to do it. Because at least with men, they said, someone might get the wrong idea if you look them in the eyes too much, and they've told my girlfriend that because she really does look people in the eyes. And that's very unusual among Japanese people. Another thing, for example, is sharing drinks in bottles or cans. Normally, each person has their own drink, and it's not common to offer someone else the same drink. Because, in general, Japanese people don't do things or share things that could involve sharing saliva. Japan is a country where business cards, presentation cards, and personal cards are used a lot, and there is a lot of etiquette surrounding them. Normally, when you are going to give someone a card or receive one from someone, usually, if both people have cards, they exchange them at the same time. What you shouldn't do is put it in your pocket as soon as you receive it, because that's considered rude. In fact, if you're at a meeting table and you exchange cards, well, the card is usually placed nearby, close to you in plain sight, and kept on the table until the meeting is over. Alright, these are very formal things, but in case someone comes from abroad and has to do business card etiquette is very important. Then, there are other things that they might not mention much, like playing with chopsticks. They won't really tell you about that. Another thing is that foreigners might not be used to plain white rice, so they want to pour soy sauce on it. That's also, well, as foreigners, they won't really point it out to you, maybe they'll just mention it. But actually, it's not well regarded to put that on plain white rice. Another thing, which isn't a prohibition, but rather a good custom, let's say, good etiquette, is that when someone is going to serve you something to drink or eat, you should lift your glass with both hands when they serve you. Or if, for example, someone wants to pass you something, for example, with chopsticks, they want to give you something. Well, what you have to do is lift your plate to receive what they're going to give you, always with both hands. For example, if you're in a family home and someone wants to serve you something, you lift your plate with both hands to receive the food. What you should never do is pass things between chopsticks. Never do this, it's not done. When a person is cremated, there's a kind of tradition where two family members pass the bones to each other using chopsticks. Still, this isn't something that happens often, and it's not really that serious. That's why, when you want to give something to someone and they receive it, you have to put it on their plate. Another thing that's considered very rude is pointing at things with chopsticks. Talking and doing this, for example. It's something that many foreigners do often. You shouldn't do this, it's a bad habit. I don't do it. On trains, there aren't many rules, but the existing ones, like those regarding noise, are highly respected. The train is considered a public space, sort of a rest area in quotes, so people usually don't speak loudly inside trains. Sometimes, in very crowded stations like Shibuya, on weekends late at night with a lot of drunk people, young people, yes, people get on and talk and might even shout. But aside from that, 99% of the time on trains, people are always quiet, calm, looking at their phones, always in silent mode. You never hear a phone ringing with notifications, and no one listens to music or has their phone volume up loud. Everyone is always using headphones. Something very, very important is that no one talks on the phone. People don't usually use voice messages. It's very uncommon. For Japanese people, it's going to feel a bit strange if you send them a voice message. If you see an older person or anyone else, never offer them your seat directly. The most discreet thing to do, if you notice, is to just get up and leave, like pretending you're getting off or that you simply want to leave the seat free. But normally, if you directly offer your seat to someone, that person will refuse it. Unless they really need the seat. Because normally people feel kind of embarrassed, like they're bothering others because of their condition, which is just how society works. Never share single-serving dishes, especially in fast food places, for example. Sometimes, for instance, a ramen or an udon, which is a bowl. Just one bowl of a certain type of food in a restaurant. Don't order one meal for two people or a large one to share between two. That's not appropriate. It goes against the policy of any food establishment. You can share dishes if you order several different ones. Never leave a tip. Many people say that tipping is considered an insult, but it's not that it's considered an insult. The thing is, there's just no custom of tipping in any field, basically. Sometimes it can happen that, I don't know, you're at a bar with a bartender and at the end you say, "Otsuri wa irimasen," meaning you don't need the change. That could happen, but never leave money on the table when you leave because someone from the staff will immediately come running to tell you that you forgot your money. Oh well, once you finish eating at fast food places, usually you can't stay and chat at the table. You're not supposed to. Especially in places like ramen or udon shops, where it's just a single bowl meal. In these places, people eat quickly and leave. You can't stay there talking, chatting, or looking at your phone. At other types of restaurants, like family restaurants or places with big tables for many people, or places that serve alcohol, there's no problem with that. Especially if the place is crowded. Even more so, you can't and shouldn't stay sitting for too long. 3 ultra basic ones, but just in case, I'll mention them too. 1. Don't litter in the street. People don't throw trash in the street. And even though it's a place where there aren't any public trash cans anywhere, you can walk for kilometers and you won't find a trash can. Vending machines sometimes have drink holders next to them, but not always. However, people don't litter on the street. Whether that's the country you're in or where you're from, that's just not done. It's also about respecting traffic lights, regardless of how narrow the street is or if there are no cars passing by. If the traffic light is red, people respect it and don't cross, so you also have to respect it, no matter what country you're from. And the last one, well, this one is really from Japan. Taking off your shoes, you always have to take off your shoes in houses. Never think that in any house in Japan they don't take off their shoes. Because in 100% of cases, you have to take off your shoes in houses, even in some traditional style restaurants. Another place where there are rules is the onsen or hot springs, public baths. Well, first of all, most places do not accept people with tattoos. But this is all because tattoos used to be associated with the mafia. And since you can't put up a sign saying, "No mafia allowed," they put up signs saying no tattoos. And the problem is that everyone has to be treated the same way. Therefore, if you have tattoos, you likely won't be allowed to enter public baths or hot springs. But in case you are allowed in, something very important is that you shouldn't get into the hot spring water directly. I mean, first, the main rule above all is to be 100% naked. You can't go in with your underwear. Second, you have to clean yourself, wash your body well before getting into the water. That's just within what this onsen is. Well, the thing is, onsens are spaces. They're very Japanese places, and as a foreigner, you might make a mistake or two without meaning to, without bad intentions, and end up looking bad. And well, many places that receive tourists sometimes have to set very strict rules or get strict in other ways to avoid other problems. For example, with tattoos, that everyone has to be discriminated against equally, even people who might have nothing to do with it. Then there are always the written rules, the bad manners that exist in parks, where it always says do and don't, do and don't, do and don't. Don't bring your bike or motorcycle into the park. Don't feed the animals, don't play sports, don't set off fireworks. You can walk your dog, but you have to carry the bag that says poop. I mean, take your pet's poop with you. Be careful with the noise because there are babies sleeping in the area and so on, trash and all that. Another thing is that in Japan, there's no problem with drinking alcohol in public. So cheers to that. I got the vaccine today, so I can't drink alcohol. I bought a non-alcoholic beer instead. A completely unnecessary scene of me having to open a can of non-alcoholic beer.
It ended up looking like a commercial. In fact, the whole shot looks like a commercial. I don't know who's filming you so well.
Non-alcoholic beer is actually good. Seriously, give it a try. I mean, it tastes good, it's just that there's no fun in it.
You know what? It's oddly good.
It's strangely tasty. As a soda, it's tasty. It feels like a malt soda. But, well, Japan is a country that has many unwritten rules. Many things are considered bad manners. In the same way, it's not bad manners to slurp noodles when you eat, or to slurp soup when... That's not bad. Well, actually, with drinks, nobody makes noise while drinking, but the important thing is that you should take everything calmly. I mean, including using chopsticks. If you're a foreigner, people will notice that you're a foreigner, that you're not doing anything wrong. What can really make people uncomfortable is the tone of voice in quiet places. In a cafe, for example, where people... Well, you know, I told you that you can't linger at the table after eating. But, for example, in a Starbucks, in a cafe, people sometimes buy a coffee and stay there for hours. And that's pretty normal. It's quite common. But they are quiet places, so you shouldn't think of them as bars, where people get together and talk loudly. Above all, what you need to be a bit more careful about is the noise, mainly the noise. Aside from the noise, maybe they don't see it as something very serious, let's say. Even if you mess up, nothing really happens. But relax, take it easy. I hope you learned something new today. See you. And if you know of anything that's considered bad manners, something you shouldn't do in Japan, Well, you can leave it in the comments, friends. Subscribe. See you next time. Greetings to you, your pet, your family, and your neighbor. Bye.